NEWS.MC on Monaco Info is brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties. Our exclusive interview with the personalities making the Principality.
My name is Gavin Sharpe, and I'm a leadership and performance coach. So I was born in London. That's where I grew up. So I went to university, and then I went on to law school, and I did all of that in the United Kingdom. I became a lawyer because my parents wanted me to become a lawyer. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be an actor. And my mother was very clever. So she said to me, you know what you should do? Go to law school first. And that way, maybe if you don't make it as an actor, she obviously had a lot of confidence in my acting skills. You know, you can always fall back on law. But she knew once you start your career and once you get involved, you don't go back. So yes, my first career was I was a lawyer working for a global law firm in the City of London. I've lived several lives in one life and hopefully several more. But I decided I became an entrepreneur because I enjoyed law, but I didn't enjoy it enough. So I set up my own business, and that business was headhunting lawyers for all of the major global law firms. You could probably say that being an entrepreneur was in my blood because my parents were entrepreneurs. And so I set up this recruitment business. We started in the back of a Starbucks, me and one other person, and then we gradually grew the business into becoming a global recruitment business. And in our sector, as a legal recruiter, we were the #1 internationally rated, independently legal recruitment organization. I think it came up, like many things in my life, by accident. I didn't take to law as much as I would have liked to. And despite what my mother said, there's not that many things that you can do as a qualified lawyer because there aren't that many doors that open. And I wasn't going to be an actor. So I realized that one of the paths I could do was to continue in law, but hiring lawyers for the law firms. So I kind of sort of fell into it. And then because I enjoy business and I enjoy sales, then I guess you could say for the first few years, I loved the cut and thrust of building the business, scaling the business, winning the clients. Recruitment is like being an estate agent or a realtor. Nobody really wants to work with you. People don't trust recruitment organizations. So you really have to go out and prove that you have integrity, that you're authentic, that actually you're looking to build long-term relationships. And so I did that for just under 15 years. And then I got to the point where I won't say I was burnt out, but I was a workaholic. And I just thought, there must be more to life than this. I'm working 24/7, but my view on money is there is such a thing as enough money. I can only wear one watch at a time, and I can only drive one car at a time. So what am I doing this for? So I got to that point where I thought, it's time for the next chapter in my life. So cut a very long story short, my business partners, they bought me out of the business that I started. And that's when about 15 years ago, I began my career as a coach and as a therapist. It's a global business. I help people live their best lives because I believe all of us, you and me, we have so much untapped potential. So I'm always fascinated by, so what gets in the way? What stops me becoming the best version of myself? There was an American psychologist in the 1950s, Abraham Maslow, and he said that he estimated that only 2% of us ever achieve our full potential. So if you think about that, 98% of us are going through life with unfulfilled dreams, with things that we haven't done. So I work with people, mostly senior executives, with lawyers, a lot of work still with lawyers, and other people, professional services. In Monaco, I've done a very mix of work. I've worked with CEOs, with billionaires, with some racing drivers. It's all about the same thing. How can I become the best version of myself? And the mindset, you use the word mindset. The mindset example I always give is in the 1950s. Until that point, nobody had run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And it was believed it was impossible for a human being to do it. And then in, I think it was 1954, Roger Bannister runs the mile in less than 4 minutes. And then several weeks later, someone else does it again. And then several weeks later, somebody else does it. And the only thing that had changed was a belief of, oh, you can run a mile in less than 4 minutes? I'll do that. I'll train. I'll do that. That's the power of the mind. Yeah, visualization can be a really important technique in unlocking our potential. So I will sometimes say to someone, because we're not all cerebral, some of us work with images and with visualization. So I will often ask someone to use the space in the room. And I say, okay, what for you would be your definition of success? Let's assume you have achieved everything you want to. Go and stand in a corner of the room where that corner represents success. And they look at me like, is he crazy? I'm like, go and stand in that corner. Now I ask them, I'll invite them, what does it feel like to be successful? To have achieved everything you dreamed of achieving? And they'll tell me what it feels like. So they're beginning to inhabit the space. And then I say, okay, what did you do that got you to that place? Tell me some of the last few things that you did just before you achieved all your aspirations. And again, we begin to unlock the obstacles. What I did was I was out there, I was networking, I won some very big clients. And again, all of us know it's all untapped. And what I do is very simple. How can I help you tap into what you've shut down, what's been blocked? So through that visualization technique and having someone move around the room, what did you do that got you to that point? And sometimes I'll say, now walk back a few years. What did you do that got you there? What are the skills that got you there? What would you like to take forward into the next part of your life? So all those visualization techniques are another way to help someone unlock their potential. What we learn is how to put obstacles in our way. We end up believing about the things that we can't do. We have these limiting assumptions. If only I was better at maths, I could do this. If only I was more natural at sales, I could do this. We just construct based on experiences, based on things that people tell us. We develop these limiting beliefs. And the work I do coaching was invented by a tennis coach back in, I think it was the 1970s. It was a guy called Timothy Galway. And what he discovered was that the biggest opponent is not the person on the other side of the net. The biggest opponent to me being successful is in my head. So I think all of us put these obstacles in our way. And my job is to help someone else to identify what those obstacles are, how they're getting in the way, and then crucially, how can we remove them? Let's get rid of them, because then you can soar, then you can achieve your potential. When someone in front of you has that aha moment, when they suddenly see what for the past maybe 15, 20 years they couldn't see, and you witness that in that moment, it's so powerful. I have a colleague and she says what you're doing as a coach is you're helping someone make the link to break the link. And it's so powerful. I had a very senior CEO who was suffering from a lot of anxiety, very successful, but just was so fearful that at some point it would all come crashing down. And he's carried this through running a company worth billions. And still he's walking around with this old narrative. I'm a failure. This could fall apart at any moment. And when he was able to make that link and see that this is old stuff, this is stuff that you've been carrying with you, it was so powerful to see him, his whole body just relax. Now, he's not going to suddenly change just because of that one moment, but he's going to begin to make changes. He's going to begin to, it's going to sound like a cliche, but set himself free from that chain, that shackle. I think to be a successful entrepreneur, maybe two things. One, do what you love doing. If you just do it for the money, you could be successful. It goes back to how do we define success. I love that, the Japanese talk about the ikigai, which is do what you're good at, do what the world needs, and do something where you can make money. And if you put those three things together, you're going to be successful. And I think the second key to success is emotional intelligence. There is no way I can lead a team of people if I don't know myself. If I can't self-regulate my emotions, if I don't know what's happening in my inner world, which is why my training as a psychotherapist is so valuable. If I don't know myself, there isn't a chance I'm going to successfully lead anybody else. And emotional intelligence is something which we can learn and we can also improve. Everyone needs a coach, probably more than everyone needs a therapist. I would say some people need a therapist. But if you go back to what I said earlier on, if only 2% of us achieve our full potential, then 98% of us could really benefit from having a coach. And it's become very popular in the corporate world for someone just to have by their side a coach to help them find their way, their direction, to live their best life. Well, I came to Monaco when my parents moved here in something like 1987. And I'll tell you this, I didn't like Monaco. And I could not understand, why would you come and live here? To me, I could look around, it looked like there was lots of old people, probably people my age now. And I thought, why would you leave the UK? Then I came back to Monaco after my parents had left Monaco. I came back to Monaco and visited about 20 years ago. And I thought, this is a really nice place. I wonder if I could ever afford to come and live here. So my first impression of Monaco wasn't, fortunately, a lasting one. And here I am now, and my father, who is 88 years old, he now lives in America. He's had homes all over the world, and he says the place where he was probably the happiest was Monaco. And he reminds me every day when he says, how is it? Because I speak to my father every day, and I say, I love it here. And he says, well, you remember when you didn't like it? I say, yeah, I remember. Monaco is unique, and I tell my clients, as long as you don't believe that this is the whole world and this is the real world, because the moment you think this is the real world, it's time to leave. But if you respect Monaco for what it is, I think it's the most amazing place to live, because you have, despite the reputation of Monaco, which is always, of course, about the money, which is an element, you have a principality that is committed to the environment. Most Western countries today are not that committed. Monaco looks after its own people in a way that very few places on earth look after their own people the way Monaco does. So yes, you have the safety, the security. Of course, there's all the fun things. You have the best restaurants in the world and you have the parties. But for me, it's when you put everything together and you have the climate and the safety, the security, and what Monaco stands for, which people just don't seem to get. For me, it's the most incredible place to live.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching News.MC, your English rendezvous on Monaco Info. Discover more interviews and stories on our websites, News.MC and MonacoInfo.com. This show was brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties.